What's up, guys, and welcome back to the 9th Gigabyte Challenge. This is going to be a very delayed best of one, but it's fine because we're here now between xGame KZ and Swag. Not too familiar with Swag, but definitely recognize a lot of their players. Regardless, here on HeflaTV 1, we're going to be bringing you this game. I'm Mike Loris. I also have Grandis V with me, and I hope you're still awake, man, because that delay was quite long.
It definitely was. I'm kind of bummed out with these first couple of bans, mostly that Meepo first ban coming out from xGame. We got to see Wee's Meepo in our first best of one. I was hoping for an Excalibur Meepo in this game, but it's not going to happen. Tidehunter, Razor, and Batrider are also going to get the ban hammer, as the next picks are actually fairly peculiar, at least to see this early on from xGame. Nagasarn and Disruptor, already a pretty decent combo between them. The pick for Brewmaster, or pick for Swag is going to be Brewmaster. There we go.
Yeah, for xGame, they do tend to like to play the slow and steady kind of game. Nagasarn for Mantis typically seems to be the order of business, as they usually don't like to play it super aggressively. They want to just wait until late game, make very few mistakes up until then, and then win the game. It's not the most exciting gameplay style, but hey, when it works, it works. They're going to make sure to have a hero that Mantis is very comfortable with from the get-go, and also having the Disruptor as a pseudo counter to Brewmaster, as quick static storm can completely screw up his initiation, and then you could very easily bring him down. But still very weird here, as you said, to be seeing this early, but we'll see if Swag can get around this. Brewmaster as their opening is incredibly potent, with Death Prophet still in the pool. I think you just go for her now. I mean, you know that the enemy team is going to be turtling, so you might as well try to crack their base early.
Yeah, I don't see a reason why they should avoid going for the Death Prophet. It would be a nice tool for them. Even in the later portions up against Nagasarn, it would make it a lot easier for them to break the base, being able to constantly bring down the waves of creeps and then just put the constant damage on the tower with Exorcism. I think it's a solid choice. And honestly, if it ever weasels its way through to this picking stage, you're probably going to get that for yourself. It's going to be a Lion. Wow, that's very interesting coming out from Swag, a support that honestly is hardly ever bad. You have the double lockdown spells in the Hex as well as Earth Spike and a lot of nuke damage coming out from Lion. Again, it's a support that we usually don't see this highly prioritized, with Ogre, Earthshaker, and Sand King all in the pool, as well as a Skarath Mage for that matter. I'm not sure why they picked the Lion over those heroes.
It's mostly for countering the Nagasarn. He has illusion killing tools, and I mean, it's good to have ways of dealing with the illusions for sure. And he can be a hero that can pressure Nagasarn early on. I think this is a good hero to pick up versus xGame, but I do think they could have waited a little bit longer and picked up a hero that would have been a little bit more aggressive towards the entirety of xGame. Because Lion, though he is very powerful versus Nagasarn, Finger of Death is not what Nagasarn wants to be feeling. It's very slow, if that makes any sense. Like, you have to rely on a Lion who's reliant on experience, so he wants high levels of Earth Spike, and he wants a Finger of Death, and once he does get the Finger of Death, it's on a 160-second cooldown. It's a good counter versus Nagasarn, but not the hardest counter. I think the hardest counter is just trying to end the game early on, and Lion doesn't really do that. It's kind of like Swag are expecting to take this one late, though it would not be the best idea versus Nagasarn.
Yeah. I'm not sure what they'd be comfortable in picking up against a Nagasarn late, and Medusa's already been banned out away from them. And honestly, a Diffusal Nagasarn can put a lot of hurt into a Medusa in the later portions of the game. Next couple bans are going to see a lot of hate on cores, with Viper and Slark taken out by Swag. Still, a whole lot of teamfight supports that are still left in the pool. xGame might be looking towards the Sand King if they really want to play this passively early.
Just looking at the chat right now, it seems like, I mean, Swag do have a lot of Coast players in here. I'm trying to figure out what's going on with their team, but, I mean, they have a whole bunch of recognizable names as, yeah, it seems like they just have support issues or something like that. Either way, back into this draft, Death Prophet is going to get the boot eventually. Just took xGame a little bit longer. What they want to do right now is just pick up heroes that can hold down the fort while Nagasarn farms. Heroes that can fight early. Viper, Razor already out of the pool would have been pretty much the ideal pickups for xGame, but really they just need another support that could kind of combo with the Disruptor. Maybe they just want to play it super defensively and pick up something like a Treant or Ogre Magi. That's good too.
Yeah, Ogre, although he doesn't synergize that well with Nagasarn as far as the bloodlust is concerned, is hardly ever a bad support to have on your side. The double CC spells coming out from the Fire Blast and Ignite are always wonderful, and you have the chance of instantly bursting down a target, especially like a Lion, if you do get that 4x multicast on your ultimate at level 16, which is always something nice to have at your disposal. I think I would have preferred to see the Sand King or Earthshaker instead of the Ogre in this game for xGame. I think it would synergize better with their playstyle, but it's still going to give them a nice solid stunning support.
Yeah, Ogre and Disruptor aren't really two supports that tend to be seen on the same team unless they're directly countering the enemy. Disruptor rather passive, Ogre Magi rather aggressive, and when you put those two together, you can't really get that much done in either way. You could play defensively, but it's a lot of waste potential there. Swag, ooh, they're going to take an IO up right now, so it looks like this is going to be their tool for making sure that the Naga Siren is not going to get all the free space in the world. With the Naga Siren in the pool, definitely having someone with cleave is going to be preferable, so it might just be a tiny IO, but going for a Phantom Assassin is also more and more viable each day, and that could be what they're aiming to go for.
Since it's Excalibur and since they are up against Illusion Hero, I'm going to assume that this is a Tiny for them. I don't think there's a great reason to go into the Phantom Assassin, although viable. I think Tiny just comes ahead in most portions of the game over that PA. This Disruptor is going to be a decent pick for xGame as well, kind of pre-countering the IO, being able to drop a Static Storm on both of the targets when they jump in, or glimpsing one of them back when the relocates come, is going to be very nice for keeping the Naga Siren safe. And it will make the Disruptor and Ogre Magi not look too out of place in the lineup of xGame because of that, but still, xGame are in a bit of a interesting situation as far as this next pick, because Swag, right now there's no real Wisp partners that have been banned out. Wisp and Slark might be a thing, maybe Wisp Meepo if you're really frisky, but it's going to be a Jakiro for xGame, so maybe they are going to look for a more early game-centric lineup and then have the Naga Siren as a backup plan.
So yeah, Core Jakiro is certainly a hero that can technically fight early if you need him to, though he does tend to be more on the pushing plan. Naga Siren and this, it's kind of not working well with each other. Again, it's more like Jakiro and Ogre Magi are in one team comp, and then Disruptor and Naga Siren are in another. Who knows? It might work out for them in the end, maybe, but I don't know. I just don't like where xGame are going with this, mostly because they're pulling in two separate directions. Whereas for Swag, now with the IO Tiny combination, they're pretty focused. Like, they're going to be running Brewmaster, Lion, and then whoever else they want to pick up, while the IO and Tiny are split pushing, split farming, keeping the Naga Siren off their back. And then they're going to look to make just giant team fights happen. In xGame, they're, for right now, more early game focused than late.
Yeah, definitely. This Naga Siren song is going to be crucial for them. Usually, it's more Naga Siren's escape tool than a way for initiation, but this game it's going to be setting up for both the Static Storm, Ice Path, and Macro Power, which is ridiculous. If they're able to catch out 2 to 3 heroes inside of that, it's a lot of damage that we'll be pumping into the likes of the Tiny, and although he'll consider a BKB later on, he's not going to get it as his first couple of items, and presumably going to be going towards that Aghanims first, which will mean for a good portion of the game, the magic damage coming out from xGame is going to be problematic for Swag to deal with. The Brewmaster currently in the fights isn't controlled that much, with the exception being the Static Storm coming out from the Disruptor, or if they get some lucky Fire Blast to burst him down in time.
Swag need one more core hero, ideally someone with a little bit more initiation. I mean, Brewmaster is great to jump in, but if he's all alone, if he's facing up against a Disruptor, then that's not really the most secure way to go. Maybe they're going to look for a mag here. That will be 3 melees, but Cleave is going to be amazing on Tiny. If you get that plus the Aghanim Scepter, you could just demolish the Naga Siren. So maybe they want to go for that direction, but really I think they could go for pretty much whatever they want, and they will be fine. For xGame, they still need a core, maybe going to be a mid lane hero, expecting possibly an IO Tiny combination. So I don't know, the possibilities for these final 2 picks are pretty wide, but it's more going to be up to the teams and what they prefer as to what they're going to pick up for the last picks, I think.
Yeah. I think that xGame are going to put the Jakiro mid up against a presumable Tiny IO combination in mid, or maybe a Brewmaster. I think in both situations, just Jakiro will be able to get experience, which is mostly what that hero needs, and shouldn't die unless he completely oversteps his bounds. So maybe xGame are going to be looking to fill their other solo position in the offlaner. It's unlikely that we're going to see any sort of aggressive tri-lane coming out from xGame, and it's going to be a puck. This doesn't really answer a question of how they're going to lane it, but presumably puck towards the mid, offlane Jakiro. Maybe switch those two.
Yeah, the puck is going to be running most of the interference for the Naga Siren. It does look like xGame are going to be playing this rather passively. I mean, the Jakiro core, which I'm assuming is still going to be a thing this game, is going to be nice at taking towers occasionally, giving Naga Siren a nice jump of gold, but still Naga Siren is pretty much the only late game hero that xGame has. Puck and Jakiro fall off in a huge way. Ogre Magi with lucky multicasts and lots of levels can remain relevant, but against Tiny and Brewmaster, that's going to be very unlikely. So It's up to Swag to make sure that they don't get completely demolished by these four heroes of X Game, all minus Naga Siren, and then take it from there. The Puck is an okay hero versus what Swag have. The silence is going to be very devastating, and well, actually they're going to go for a DK. So it looks like Swag, they're going to look to do a little bit of pushing of their own. I guess they figure X Game, they're very damage light. You might as well take someone who's more or less immune to physical damage.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Dragon Knight, he's going to be building into the BKB fairly early on, and once he has that, being able to siege towers is going to be very nice for Swag to have at their disposal. Usually you don't want to take games late up against Naga Siren, but I think Swag have the tools at their disposal in order to do so. Right now they are playing on the Radiant side with E-Skills heading up the mid, currently tagged by Blan on the IO, although that could be changing up any moment. Cat is going to be playing on the Brewmaster up towards top, potentially Cheshire Cat, although I wasn't able to check his profile. It is private. Solon going to be playing in the line, leaving Tiny down in bottom, played by Excalibur.
And on the X Game side, Reeves is going to be playing the Ogre Magi, intentionally body blocking his allies. Equal is going to be supporting as the Disruptor, with Wadafaka on the core Jakiro. Mantis is going to be on the surprise Naga Siren, and that leaves Stallcat bringing up the rear on the Puck. Currently all heading down towards the bottom lane. Excalibur is going to be laning this defensively with the IO. I expect the Lion to be joining them shortly. If X Game do end up running this in aggressive tri-lane, then this is a lane that Swag are not going to be happy with. Excalibur, he's not going to get hit with anything right now. Fire Blast could have potentially set up for an Ice Path, but then they don't have enough damage to actually get the kill, so that's fine for X Game. They're going to get a read on the enemy's lanes, and an aggressive tri-lane versus an IO, pretty much in any situation, is going to be winning.
For now, the Naga is going to be heading up towards top, and it's going to leave the Jakiro as the farming core if they do decide to leave this as an aggressive tri-lane, which is a likely outcome for these lanes from X Game. And if nothing changes for Swag, which it looks like it will, rotating the Dragon Knight down towards bottom, as the IO and Tiny make their way towards mid. The block is going to be missed by these two heroes, but the lane is going to be countered by Swag. Naga Siren is now going to be mid up against a dual lane, and it's going to be Swag that get the better end of these lane situations.
Right, so X Game getting a read, but it turns out to be the wrong read. That's going to put Cat up to the top lane, and E-Skills Solon going to be laning a dual lane down on bottom versus this tri-lane. This is still not a winning proposition for Swag, as Lion does need a lot of experience, so dual lanes typically where you want to put him ideally. You want to avoid tri-lanes as best you can, but DK, as tanky as he is not going to be able to withstand all this magical damage and the chip damage from Liquid Fire. It's just way too much burst and dot potential from X Game that I don't think this dual lane is going to get anything done. You can already see the positioning from X Game. They know that they won this lane as long as they don't make any complete mistakes in diving a tower or something like that.
Yeah, and it's going to be Naga Siren off to a slow start, which isn't a very happy Naga. You want to get that Radiance ASAP so you can start farming the entire map and accelerating your items. Stacks are potentially going to come out for this Naga, although she's not the best hero to abuse them at the early portions of the game. Might be able to catch her up, but I think most importantly, this bottom lane needs to go wonderfully for X Game if it's going to make up for the fact that their Naga is not getting very much. Lion as well as Dragon Knight in the dual lane aren't going to be very happy up against the Jakiro tri lane. They can't really go any further than they are now, both just soaking experience as best they can.
So top lane is most likely going to be our most passive lane, Brewmaster versus the Puck. Both heroes will struggle to get kills on one another. Even when level 6 comes up on either side, it's going to be very difficult there. Bland now with the bottle is going to let Excalibur pretty much spam out his combo, which is going to be useful at putting pressure onto Mantis, but it's not really going to be too useful when this happens. Reeves and Equal, they're going to be rotating in. There's no levels on the Ogre Magic just yet. Ignite or Fire Blast, depending on what he needs. Maybe they're just going to place some wards and block a pull. No, that's not going to happen either. They're going to be spotted out by Solon, so the jig is up, and nothing's going to happen with that smoke. Unfortunately enough for X Game, they might still go for this one, just Thunderstrike on Solon. Not really going to be hugely relevant, but the mid lane is going to continue in favor of Swag. I mean, they're not going to be getting ahead in levels, but Mantis is having a pretty rough time farming, all things considered. And as the levels progress for Tiny, she'll have an even harder time. E-Skills on the bottom lane is in quite a bit of trouble. The Dual Breath is going to land. Liquid Fire, not available just yet, but this DK is just not tanky enough to withstand this. He's going to die to the Liquid Fire? No, it's going to be X Game's Reeves to get the last right click in. I mean, DK's tanky, but that's only when he has many more levels.
Yeah, nice body blocks coming out from the Ogre Magi are able to keep the Dragon Knight close enough, and although not having the 2 levels at the time available for Fire Blast, it was enough to keep Dragon Knight in place and getting out that damage. With 2 points up in the Liquid Fire, it's going to be enough for them to continuously put pressure on this lane and make sure Dragon Knight isn't getting very much. This Jakiro is getting a lot of farm priority by xGame in the early portion of the game, and it's going to be up to him to make up for the fact that Mantis is not getting the farm now and to make the space for him later. Currently, Excalibur tossing up Mantis is potentially going to throw out an Avalanche eventually, but with the bottle running for the Naga Siren, she's able to survive through this lane and get a decent amount. 9-1 compared to 13-4 on the Tiny up against a dual lane, I think is an admirable showing coming out from Mantis.
The Swag with the IO, they have been stacking up a couple camps here and there. Double camp in both the hard and medium. Unfortunately, Mud Golems are Mud Golems, and the Tiny's going to struggle a little bit more at clearing those out. But if IO keeps on stacking, then the Tiny's going to have a huge leap of power in just a little while when he has a couple more levels in Avalanche Toss. He could clear them out in one combination, can be very useful for him. The bottom lane, xGame is going to start pushing, but it's going to be Mantis over towards mid. Got Avalanche Toss, now being body blocked by his own illusions. I don't know how you make that kind of mistake, but now they're going for bottom. Solon and E-Skills in a little bit of trouble. They're going to land a Dragon Tail equal, taking tower aggro as well. One more right click is all they need. The creeps will do it. Now E-Skills is going to get beaten down by the Ogre and the Jakiro. The Hex Hunter Reeves is going to slow him down, but that won't be enough to kill him off with the boots. He will make it out alive. Yes, he will. Wadafaka is also in a little bit of trouble, but the tower is now focusing creeps. Solon gets to live. DK going down one more time. This DK needs like a magic stick and a poor man shield or a vanguard or something to survive this lane, because right now it's just not working out for him.
Yeah, it's really not. The Naga Siren dying there is pretty huge. It might happen again. A toss Avalanche combo onto Mantis. Although they don't throw him up in the air, it's going to keep him alive. Now turning onto Excalibur, looking for the damage with the tower. It's there. Now the Wisp gets the last hit on the Naga Siren, but that's a huge kill for the Naga to get before falling. I thought she'd die without getting anything of her own, and ends up getting quite a large chunk of experience out of that.
It's a lot of experience for the Naga Siren, but at the same time, it's a lot of experience for the IO, and that's a level 5 IO in a dual lane. Currently is perfectly tied up with the Tiny. That's with Bland just occasionally leaving the lane to pull. This is going to mean a faster relocate, and although it's nice for the Naga Siren to have those leaps in experience considering her circumstances against the dual lane, the pressure that you get on the other lanes once the relocate is up might be worth it for Swag in the end, because IO's that much closer to his level 6, and that means this bottom lane actually has more of a fighting chance when they could bring both the Tiny IO in to help out.
Yeah, definitely. Bottom lane isn't as pushing as hard in the favor of xGame after the death of the Ogre. He rotates towards mid, or not the death of the Ogre, but dropping low and being forced back to base. Reeves is now sitting behind the Naga Siren. Not the best support to be sitting behind a Naga in order to defend against aggression coming out from Excalibur and potentially the Wisp once he's done stacking up. But he's there, and he might be able to accomplish something, although right now I'm just not seeing it.
Alright, so taking a quick look at the top lane, who's winning there? It's going to be Puck leading the CS just by 10. Not a huge amount, but still the Brewmaster is going to be slightly behind, not going to be bothering Swag that much. The fact of the matter is that most of the hopes lay upon this IO and Tiny combo. They have to clear the stacks and they have to get something done. They're going to go for a Stalcat up on top lane. They're going to clap and then use the chain stun perfectly. Getting a quick Hex is definitely the difference. But that means, of course, E-Skills is without support. He's going to hit with a Fire Blast. Ignite as well. No Liquid Fire, or no Ice Path being thrown just yet. But it won't even be necessary, I don't think. The Wisp is going to come in. He's going to land a little bit of help for the DK. But will it be enough? It looks like it will just be. The IO gets glimpsed back, and now Wadafaka is going to take the tower first. Here comes Excalibur, looking for a toss into something. Will throw the creep onto the Jakiro and kill him off. He's out of mana, however, needs 10 more to kill off Reeves. Now it's going to be Solon chased down by Mantis. Also made his rotation in. Excalibur going to decide to turn around, trying to go for equal. Solon does not have any mana to do anything either. Excalibur has an Avalanche, has a toss, but now with the Naga Siren Illusions chasing him, he's just going to land the toss into equal. Needs 2 more right clicks, or just 1. That's a lot of damage. In the meantime, IO has actually intercepted the Ogre Magi, and he brought him off solo. That's going to be a huge exchange for xGame, or for Swag rather. It's going to be xGame getting the Brewmaster up on top in retaliation. After all is said and done, Swag do get the advantage as they take down 4 kills, losing only 1 hero, I believe.
Yeah, and it's only the Brew to die. The Tiny winning out huge in that last engagement. It's going to get 600 gold out of that. And despite the tier 1 tower falling in favor of xGame, that's kind of expected to happen when you're running aggressive trialing with Jakiro as the farming core. And if you're able to get a trade like that out of it, Swag are going to be oh so happy with how that went. Yeah, I don't think there's really much more to talk about there. The Puck, he goes for the phase boots before finishing up the Blink Dagger, so it is going to delay the Blink, which is, I don't know, kind of the reason why Swainius lane as hard as he is. So, I mean, it's personal preference. I think rushing towards the Blink might have been better, but down in mid, we're going to see Wadafaka jumped on. He's going to eat the clap from the Brewmaster, but a glimpse back will keep him safe as he's able to make it under tower and salve back up.
That was just a toss into a clap just for harassment, and that didn't really cost them that much. So pretty cute plays from Swag, a Blink Dagger replacement for sure. I mean, Cat will eventually be able to get his Blink Dagger up, so he won't have to rely on that. But for right now, the initiation power for Swag is certainly there. And right now, their IO Tiny is actually doing remarkably well. Level 5 on the IO 8 minutes in with a dual lane is actually pretty good, and this is even without clearing out all their stacks. Once Tiny does that, it's going to be relocate up, and Tiny's going to have at least level 8 to get a little bit more into Avalanche, so he's going to be able to do a lot more damage in that front. They have to, xGame, shut down this Tiny IO in some way. 2-0-3 on the IO. Tiny's taken 1 death, but that's not really the biggest deal in the world. They need to put more pressure on him, maybe push their tower. Jakiro has rotated up to the mid lane, and Mantis swapped down bottom, so it looks like xGame are going to look to push and open up with Excalibur. All the skills are going to land, but Ice Path and Fire Blast at low levels don't really do that much.
Yeah, not at all. And Excalibur is going to be able to make it under his tower. He's going to tango up, and has a Wisp to help him out as well. The stacks are available, and Aya's going to look to make this large creep stack into a quad one. The medium camp is not as attractive for the Tiny to farm. It has 1 Mud Golem inside of it, so the Abatos isn't going to do anything. Let's see. I think Aya's going to succeed in this stack. Let's see. The creeps are not going to agree with him, however. They decide to run back a little bit too fast.
That's a little bit unfortunate, but still it's a lot of gold for Tiny, and it's going to put him to level 8 at the very least. It's going to take him a little bit if he doesn't Avalanche toss combo the wave down, but still, he will eventually do this unless he gets surrounded and killed. That was a little bit close, but that's fine. They're looking out for top lane, where Cat's going to try to make himself look tasty for the puck. Solan's going to look to close in for the Hex. He lands it as well, has a spike, and the clap. It's a lot of damage to the puck, though not enough to instantly kill him off. Now the coil's there. Solan's going to get hit with the Fire Blast, but here comes the relocate. Bland as well as Excalibur going to clean up. The Lion does go down, unfortunately enough. They use the split and the relocate, in fact, but it's still them getting 2 kills in exchange for just 1. Very much so worth it for the Swag side, especially since they put a lot of damage onto the tower in addition. Tiny's now level 8, and he's going to rotate back towards mid lane with xGame. Haven't really managed to push this tower that much with Excalibur's absence. Now the Avalanche toss combo is unfortunately going to toss a creep, and that means Wadafaka might be able to live, although not with the Wisp Balls being this high level. It's going to be equal to bash down by the IO with 1 random Wisp Ball to get that kill. Now Wadafaka going to try to turn things around onto Bland. Excalibur is going to get slept, though. Mantis coming in from the back along with Stallcat. They're going to set up for a nice 2-man Ice Path. Going to kill off the IO immediately. Now Excalibur hit with the Fire Blast. He's going to get ignited as well. Try to Avalanche toss the Stallcat. It will not be enough. 19 HP. Puck survives. A little bit too deep potentially for Swag. They did not expect the Naga Siren to be there.
Yeah, it's a huge win for xGame. Killing off the Tiny at this point is pretty crucial, and Tiny's going to back off for the drums before going straight into the Aghanim Scepter. More of a fighting build coming out from him, and it's a decent amount of gold now onto Mantis, presumably saving up straight towards the Radiance. He goes for the Aquila as well as the bottle first, so it's going to be a little bit delayed in that respect, but 900 gold is definitely fine with the way that the early game started out for him, and now he's going to have a little bit more room on the map to farm, and crucially in that last engagement, Stallcat doesn't die, so he's able to purchase up the Blink Dagger, so the initiation power is now in the favor of xGame, as they have the Blink Silence Dream Coil in order to drop on the likes of the Brewmaster and maybe control him up enough in order to stop his ultimate from coming out inside the team fights. It's actually a Midas on the Dragon Knight, a very peculiar choice coming out from eSkills.
I think it's actually pretty decent here. He obviously did not have the best early game laning phase, sitting in the middle of the last hit deny chart, same place in the net worth chart in general. And Hanamitis as a recovery item is going to be pretty good, especially since you know the game is going to be going late, since that's kind of just xGame's MO. You could get a lot of value off of that item over time. Like, even if Tiny goes for a Hanamitis here, I don't think that's the most terrible item either, just because xGame are going to draw this game out. You might as well get a lot of value when you can.
Yeah, I would have liked to see the Hanamitis over the drums, and if you're not going to go for the Hanamitis, I think you rush straight towards the Ags, but I don't know, Excalibur probably knows better than I do. He's going to go ahead and farm a couple more stacks, and although his Aghanim Scepter is going to be delayed a little bit, it's still going to come out at a good time, as long as he avoids diving as deeply as he did in mid.
It might not be up to him, as the smoke is blown. Stallcat has a coil, and Excalibur's going to take a Fire Blast, multicasted in fact. He's going to get dropped pretty low. In the meantime, Bland initiated upon by Stallcat, but the damage there from Solon. Are these 2 supports going to kill off the puck? They will. Excalibur also solo kills his target. That's a 2-for-1 so far. They're going to try to chase forward for equal. They're going to all get caught with the Ice Path, though. Excalibur doesn't have another Avalanche, another 5 seconds, and it looks like that should be the end of it. But that was a supposed smoke gank from xGame, which turned disastrous. That was just a Lion and Aya without Finger of Death getting a kill on a puck. That should not really be happening.
And now relocate, going to be spent by the Tiny down to the river. They're going to be able to toss onto Equal, killing off a third target in this last engagement. Dual Breath's going to go the way of Bland. Bland's taking a huge chunk of damage and needs to get out of here, but what a fucker. It's going to give him his life as an avalanche toss as well as Finger. Bursts him 100-0 and Wisp survives. Within inches of his life, he's able to bottle up and now use his urn to survive. That's a disaster for xGame. Luckily enough for them, their Naga Siren's farming in the meantime, but still, that was supposedly xGame making a move onto Swag, where they lose 4 heroes and get nothing out of it.
To be fair, you don't really expect to run into that many heroes when you make a smoke gank into the enemy side, but they weren't clustered up. They decided to go for 2 different targets, like the Io, or the Puck saw the Io and was like, hey, we could get that kill. And the Ogre saw the Tiny and he's like, hey, we could get that kill, and ultimately they didn't get any of those kills, so it's going to be xGame feeding a whole bunch of kills into Swag, making life a lot more difficult for the Naga Siren. She's sitting at 2,400 gold, a decent amount of gold for a Siren at this stage. The Radiance is going to be coming up at a decent clip, but still, I mean, they can't really afford to making these trades. The job of xGame right now is to not get too far behind, so if their Naga Siren doesn't have to face a huge mountain of EXP and gold deficit, but if they keep playing like that, then that's exactly what's going to be happening. Is Excalibur now with the maxed out Avatos can 100-0, I think, pretty much any hero of xGame if he just gets close enough.
Yeah, as long as he tosses them up in the air, I think you're pretty much right. Maybe, just maybe, Jakira's able to survive through it, but that's about it. Everybody else is pretty much going to die straight up.
Bad Cat up on top lane is going to show off his Blink Dagger. Unfortunately, he blinked it to no one, and that's going to mean no initiation there. But he has a split, and he's going to want to use that one. Again, ideally onto Mantis, but he does have a Song of the Siren, so getting the kill on the Naga Siren is always going to be difficult outside of an Avalanche Toss Finger of Death. Yet still Bland and Excalibur on the bottom lane. They have constant threat of relocate, and they're just looking for an opportunity up on top to initiate, but that's not going to be coming. Maybe they're just going to buy a little bit more time for E-skills. He does have the level 1 Dragon form. I don't think we've seen it just yet. He's almost level 2 Dragon form, in fact, so maybe Swag after the level 2 are going to look to make a push happen.
We'll see. I think right now, Mantis is the most important hero on the map. He's getting dangerously close to that relic, and if Swag are able to find him, it could be huge. But Mantis is farming very defensively, mostly just focusing on the medium and large camps on the Dire side, where there's no vision coming out from Swag, and he'll probably be able to get his relic undisturbed as long as he maintains the amount of farm that he's been able to find out of the map, which is quite honestly pretty surprising, given the amount of pressure he's been under and the lack of kills he's been involved in. Only 1, 2, and 2 on the Naga Siren. When you compare that to the Tiny, who's now 7, 2, and 3.
My god, I did not realize that Excalibur was finding that many kills, and he's going to be holding 2 parts of his Aghanim Scepter in the Ogre Club and Point Booster both being picked up on the Courier, so he's only 900 gold away from having that big tree, and now he's going to go for Wadafaka Avalanche and toss. The Jakiro is going to be tossed up into the air. That will be enough to kill him. Now Excalibur and Bland, they're going to dodge the Kinetic Field and the Static Storm both. They're going to get glimpsed back, at least Excalibur will. Still taking a lot of damage, but I don't think it's going to be lethal. Bland has to relocate out if need be, although it's a little bit too late. He is going to jump out eventually. No, he won't. The Disruptor is going to get the kill. That was a little bit too slow by Bland, quite honestly. He could have saved the Tiny.
Yeah, he definitely could have. It's going to cost them pretty big. That's a relocate down on cooldown for the Wisp, and they both lose their lives. That's a dominating spree, also going into the Ogre's pockets. xGame are going to be very happy with that last kill, and now we're going to have the Naga Siren's relic being completed. Not just yet, but after this camp, we'll have enough gold to pick up that item, and Mantis has, I don't know, kind of weathered the storm. Once the Radiance comes online, Naga Siren's going to be able to farm a lot safer. Oh, Dragon Knight. He steals one of the auto attacks, and it's going to cost Mantis the Radiance when he wants to have it. A cheeky usage of the Haste Rune coming out from E-skills.
That's not going to slow down Mantis by that much, but still it's going to piss him off at the very least, and sometimes that's what you got to do. The unfortunate thing about the bottom lane is that they actually used relocate there, but it just failed to pop off, so they don't have that any longer, and xGame should know about that as well. Still, Excalibur has completed his Aghanim Scepter even after dying, so this Tiny is going to be, reaching Tiny status of damage soon enough. Overcharge is maxed out as well, so Excalibur is going to be hitting like an absolute truck. Assuming he could survive, then he will be able to do a lot of damage to pretty much anyone. Again, he will be able to 100-0 pretty much anyone he finds, provided they have initiation proper. But right now I'd like to see Swag try to make some plays into some towers. They're pinging out for bottom lane, and they could very easily get that with the Dragon Knight, level 2 Dragon form.
Yeah. Tiny does have his Aghanim Scepter completed, however, so the... yeah. Bush is probably going to come down in bottom. The Blink Dagger from the Puck really hasn't done very much of anything. It came out at a very fast time for Stallcat, but I haven't really seen the Puck find any clean initiations with it. And honestly, any initiations at all. The Glyph is going to come out, but it's going to be taken by Swag, just delaying the push by a couple of seconds. And with the Dragon Form not spent for that Tier 1, they're going to go into the Tier 2. Tiny, although he doesn't have that much that much damage, is still going to be able to chunk down this Tier 2 tower. The secondary Glyph also going to come out as Reeves goes into Fire Blast, jumping for the Brewmaster. Doesn't spend the split, but does get the clap off. The Tier 2 tower is already dropped down to about half. In the meantime, they lose the Tier 1 tower in mid to the Chihiro's Liquid Fire, but this Tier 2 tower is going to fall cleanly for Swag without any engagements.
And they can do the exact same thing on the other lanes as well. It's going to be a 2-for-1 tower trade in favor of Swag, and they use the Dragon Form, which is a fairly long cooldown, but they will have that again soon enough, especially if they get more pressure onto Mantis. He's going to force the TP out, E-Skills, also drawing out the Song, so that's a level 2 Song. Will be up soon enough, but this is a pretty big opening for Swag, because between the Naga Siren and the Puck, they have a lot of... Oh my god, they have a lot to worry about as far as initiation, but if it's just the Puck, then it doesn't really get that dangerous.
Well, they still haven't fixed the bug where you can ping out items, but yeah, I don't know, Swag, right now they're fairly comfortable, but it's only a matter of time before the Naga Siren gets pretty difficult to deal with. The Tiny's next item choice is going to be a Crystallis, and at this point in the game, that can be ridiculous damage. 175% crit with the ridiculous cleave coming out from the Aghanim Scepter is going to really hurt, especially if they can find people clumped up in like an Abatos, maybe catch 2 heroes inside of that. They're almost going to be instantly dropped down. At this point, critting for more than 600 damage is really strong, especially against the likes of a Disruptor. He can almost get 100 to 0'd with one bat of the tree.
Yeah, this Tiny is going to be cleaving like pretty much Sven proportions right now, and he's going to very quickly clear out a Roshan. This is going to be unnoticed and uncontested by xGame. There is a Puck in the area, but Puck is a little bit too far away and simply not enough for that. Tiny now has a double life. Crit is not the most common item that we see following the Aghanim Scepter, but I suppose he figures the enemy team doesn't have that much damage. I don't have to worry about getting an Assault Cuirass, or maybe if I'm going to get a BKB, I could get that one a little bit later and save the duration on that. Might as well get damage. And I think I do like Yasha Mantis style a little bit better, but hell, crit is good as well. Kit Kat on top lane is going to get thrown up into the air. Yule Scepter, they're going to relocate straight into a Static Storm. Bland, Kit Kat, and Excalibur all going to get demolished by the Jakiro. That's a double kill for Wadafaka. Excalibur will survive and get an avalanche kill. Now he's going to try to go for equal. The damage is going to be huge. Reeves also getting stunned up by the Craggy, but Disruptor's going to live. Now the Tiny is going to be respawning. Mantis in the back end is going to try to help out, but Excalibur, he has support from the bot back IO. He's netted to the floor, however, trying to chase forward, and now the Song of the Siren is back up. E-Skills, Excalibur, Bland, all now stuck, and they're going to set up for a 2-man coil. Bland going to try to keep his distance to avoid that, and they will be successful in doing so. The coil's going to be dropped regardless. Excalibur going to take a multicast, 2 Fire Blasts onto him. He is still standing, and he still can't fight. Now the BKB being delivered by E-Skills will annihilate the Puck, who stuck around for way too long, quite honestly. The Puck is going to be, or the IO is going to be chased down by the Naga Siren Radiance. He will survive at 13 HP. That was still pretty much the worst positioning possible for Swag, though. Getting caught in that macro pyre was absolutely backbreaking.
Yeah, no, I think a lot of it comes down to the relocate positioning coming out from the IO is smack dab inside that Static Storm macro pyre, and although the glimpse goes onto the IO as soon as he jumps in, it burns down the Wisp. Maybe sending the Tiny back would have been a better decision coming out from xGame, but still, that was a very awkward way to start the fight. Solon almost just burns down to the Ignite coming out from the Ogre Magi. In fact, he is. Last tick. He's going to be able to do it. Wow, I didn't think he died there. He's able to purchase up the Blink Dagger before falling, so it's not all terrible for the Lion, but it's still a win for the Ogre, solo killing up an enemy support.
Yeah, I don't really know why that line was there all alone. Mantis, so, is in quite a bit of trouble. No, he's not. He's just trying to farm as much as he can in as many places as he can. But Excalibur and Bland are going to be doing the exact same thing. A little bit of a slower start as, for Swag, the split could have made the difference there if Brewmaster wasn't just instantly annihilated by the Static Storm, but they do still have most of their ultimates available. They have the Dragonite form in another 40 seconds, so once that happens with a relatively fresh BKB, I think they could still just go for these pushes, because what happened in the last fight is not characteristic of what should normally happen, as Brewmaster gets solo killed by Stallcat. That's also not really supposed to happen.
I can understand the Stallcat solo kill a little bit more. He does have the Dagon as well as the Waning Rift, the Loser, he commits the Dream Coil forward on top of it, which is at level 2. It does a significant amount of burst damage to Brewmaster, and it doesn't look like he was on Strength Threads when he died. And if he just took a little too much grass, we are going to see a Stag Storm. It connects well. It's going to kill off the Whiffs. Now they silence up Excalibur. He can't really do much of anything, so now they chase down Soul, and he's going to be glimpsed back. Excalibur gets the Abatos. It does a lot of damage, but Mantis is still surviving. Another Fire Blast going to multicast onto the line. The Song of the Siren trying to chase down E-Skill, so they'll be able to pursue him with the Bloodlusted Mantis. And now E-Skill's caught in a bit of a pickle here. 4 heroes already down, going to turn the Dragon form, try to kill Reeves before dying. He'll be able to succeed in doing that, but I think it's going to cost him his own life. Although putting a lot of hurt to equal, he is going to down to the Radiance Burn coming up from Mantis, as well as just the raw right clicks. And just like that, xGame, they find a 3-for-5 trade. Most importantly, Mantis doesn't die.
Yeah, Mantis cashing in huge right there. And once again, it's the kind of questionable relocation position from the IO. You generally kind of want to be in the middle of the fight if you have a BKB. Otherwise, you want to be on the edges. You want to be able to pick off a support or two and then make your way towards the middle with the IO Tiny combination. But Tiny, he's going straight for more damage, but I don't think damage is the problem. Like, yes, he was just short of killing off his targets, but if he had a BKB there, that would have been cut and dry. And that was also Swag voluntarily fighting without their Brewmaster, kind of asking for a terrible fight right now. They have the heroes to take fights at this stage, but just the way they're approaching these fights, it's just not working out for them. This is buying more and more time for Mantis to get his items up. Now, the Boots of Travel is completed on the Naga, and I'm sure there's going to be a Mantis style in the works next. Mantis is getting quite a bit out of this game just because Swag, they're taking these fights so poorly.
Yeah. And that's not really going to change. However, the toss onto Mantis, he finds the real one. Avalanche completely misses, though. Excalibur thought he found Illusion. The crit and the cleave is going to drop Mantis low, as well as the Urn Charge and the Wisp Orbs. I don't think it's going to be enough to kill off Mantis, and indeed it won't be, as Excalibur, as well as Bland, are going to be repelled. They're going to get Vision as the Glimpse comes back onto the Tiny, going to pull him back into the living arms of an Ogre, who multicasts, as well as stacks from Kinetic Field on top of Excalibur. Excalibur's falling as equal, is dropping to the Brewmaster split. They now focus down Reeves with the Boulder Toss, as well as the Brewmaster mid. It's on the sidelines of the fight. Wadafaka towards the north is going to be dropped down low by Solon, but the jump in from the puck is going to almost instantly bring down the Lion. Didn't even have to spend the Dagon for that one. Already on cooldown from earlier. The Brewmaster is still pursuing down Reeves. Blink, clap, it's going to miss. Multicast again coming out from Reeves. Just going to be ding, ding, ding all over the place, and that's going to keep himself alive. Deep behind enemy lines, Stallcat doesn't find any more. It's still a pretty nice fight for xGame, mostly because they kill off the Tiny.
Yeah, that Tiny going down is just the worst case scenario. The Tiny at a certain point had like 1 death to his name. All of a sudden he has 5 just because he's been caught in these awkward fights. He could have insta-killed the Naga Siren if he fully committed with the Avalanche toss, but again, he thought it was an illusion, and that costed him. Naga Siren was there for so long just with illusions providing Radiance Burn. Like, that at the very least was doing a lot of damage. And then, of course, you have Riptide and the right-click damage on top of all of that. The Brewmaster finally gets a split off, but he doesn't even get the kill with it on the Ogre Magi. So, Swag, they're just quickly losing objective after objective. Of course, they do have a Tiny IO. Like, you can never count out a team with this type of combination, but this is up against the Naga Siren. And as far as late game goes, they just approach the late game differently. In a huge brawl, the Tiny IO is going to win. But if xGame play the way they want to and they're slow split pushing, then they're going to be taking the lead. Solon's going to burn down Solo to the Jakiro, and then Jakiro's just going to book it. This Jakiro is very fast with Phase Boots, Yules, and a Blink Dagger. They force 2 TPs up to the top, and they don't get anything in return.
Yeah, this Tiny right now, his damage potential is ridiculous, but he desperately needs that Black King bar. I assume that's going to be your next item choice coming out from Excalibur, but they just need a way to stick in the middle of the fights. His crits are really going to put the hurt to these supports, but that's only if he's able to get them off. And in the fights, he's been controlled decently well coming out from xGame, and for the first time in the entire game, Mantis is going to overtake the farm of Excalibur, as he's been, I don't know, kind of quietly just pushing around with those illusions, doing Naga Siren things around the map, and this is where Naga really hits her stride once you have that Mantis style completed. Mantis isn't going to fully commit to it yet, presumably going to save up a little bit more gold, we'll see. But once the Mantis style is there, the illusions get a lot harder to deal with for Swag, and it's just going to increase that split pushing power even more.
And Swag, I don't know if their game plan is just sit back and do nothing. With the DK Tiny IO, that can be a feasible plan. I mean, E-Skills with the Maelstrom and a Hanamitis is doing quite a bit of damage and will continue to do a lot of damage come late game. So I can see Swag feasibly just winning this late game even over a Naga Siren if they do get good picks off. But it's a risky line, and I don't really think it's the best one for them. a safer one to just be grouping up and take the rest of the tier 2 towers, but it seems like they want to, for the most part, avoid that. Again, I think Tiny needs his BKB, and without that item, pushing at all is going to be very risky, but at the same time, they're on a timer, they kind of have to push, so what do you do here if you're Swag?
I think you just, I don't know, wait for the tiny BKB. It's a little too risky to push in without that item, and although it's not an ideal situation for you, I think it's a necessity. Excalibur is at 1800 gold, so they're about halfway there, a little bit less than that. But it's not going to be too long before they have that item available. I think going into the tier 2 towers just puts you at such a compromising position if you don't have that magic immunity on both of your cores. The Dragon Knight is going to be building into a little bit more damage, as his next choice is a Maelstrom. The Midas hasn't fully kicked in yet, but as the game goes later, this Dragon Knight's also going to be a pretty potent source of damage in the team fights.
Between Mjolnir and the 50% splash, you're going to be able to clear creep waves really quickly, and well, you're going to be able to clear Naga Siren illusions quickly as well, provided she does not have a heart, which should be in the pipeline for that hero. It looks like they're just going to settle for farming in as many places as possible. There is a Finger of Death available. Here's when the Lion gets a little bit better. He has gotten over his kind of poor early game with the hero, and now he has two ways of dealing with Naga Siren illusions, so the value of the Lion is certainly going to be present in the upcoming minutes of this fight, or of this game rather, provided they could actually get anything done. But if it is going to just be a farm fest, then it should be Swag kind of trying to group up a little bit more. xGame, they could just leave their Naga Siren for the most part solo, just because she does have the Song of the Siren to bail her out. They're going to jump forward for equal. There's a Finger of Death and the crit from Excalibur. There goes the Disruptor. Nice easy kill for Swag rather. And I don't think they're going to find anything else, but hey, a kill's a kill. Doesn't really matter who you get it on.
Yeah, I suppose not. The Wisp doesn't bring the Tiny back towards the mid lane. Excalibur just wants to farm to the enemy jungle, and it ends up TPing down towards bottom. Up in top line, it's going to be soloed up by the Puck. Committing the Dream Goal for this is going to secure the kill very easily for Stallcat. So it is going to be a 1-for-1 support trade after all is said and done, with a couple of cooldowns being expended either way. Oh, Song of the Siren in mid. It's going to be after the Jakiro falls, so Mantis isn't able to save his buddy, and I think he just needs to get out of here. They don't have enough left in the tank in order to take this engagement properly.
Yeah, but Swag, they have committed the Dragon form in order to kill off that Jakiro. I guess the only way to fight dragons is with other dragons. That's what Pokemon tells us. They're going to want to go for the mid lane push, but suddenly there's no creep wave, so getting that push is actually really hard. Now Stallcat is in potentially a lot of trouble. He's going to walk straight into a Tiny. He will dodge the avalanche, and he will be able to buy himself a little bit of space, not nearly enough. The Roshan, unfortunately, for Swag is not available, so I think the objective right now should be just go ahead and push. They have a split still. They have a whole bunch of heroes in the mid lane. It seems like a clear course of action. However, Mantis is being so annoying just with that Naga Siren. Not even an illusion, just the real one. Bland is going to jump shortly with Excalibur. The avalanche is going to land, as is the toss. The damage is going to be huge. He has 9 seconds before he has a song. I don't think he's going to get those 9 seconds. Here comes E-Skills with Dragon Tail. Naga Siren down, and now the push is going to come, although they might stop for equal. No, he's not going to stop for equal. Okay, Excalibur the Merciful. But with Naga Siren down for a whole minute, they have to go for this tier 2 tower.
Yeah, pretty much. There's not another course of action that really makes any sense. Naga Siren completed up the full heart instead of going for the Mantis style, and also is going to be without buyback. So this tier 2 tower is pretty much gone. xGame, with only the 3 heroes standing, can't really go for the defense. Reeves has silently farmed up an Aghanim Scepter, and it's honestly a really good timing for a support ogre. Being able to find this amount of farms on the sidelines, they find a Jakiro, or maybe Jakiro finds them with the Ice Path, scouting out that they're doing Roshan, but whether they know it or not, I think this Rosh is going to fall just too quickly for them to be able to contest.
Hero does have a Blink Dagger, and he does have a Yule Scepter. There is the possibility for a jump in here, especially with Puck circling around. Excalibur's got to be quick with his Avalanche, making sure that he layers it on Roshan properly, but Cat is running interference in the meantime. He has a split, and he's a very potent threat with that. They are not going to go for a tier 2 tower, instead deciding to go for an Aegis. Now Naga Siren has bought enough time to respawn. Is it going to make the difference, though? Because Swag have an Aegis, and they're going to be fighting a full 5-on-5. Assuming they get their ultimates off, they can take this pretty convincingly. Or they could just chip this tier 2 tower if xGame do not want to defend.
Yeah, it's also a full 10-second BKB on Excalibur they'll have for his first or second life. Cat is going to jump in. It's Clap Off onto Reeves, but that's about it. Stackstorm's going to drop into Excalibur, although, if you really need to get out of that, the BKB is available. BKB comes out from Cat. He should be able to get off his split during the song, and indeed he will. Now going to turn, potentially look for the Ogre, throws him up the air, and now just going to be running interference in the backlines. This Dragon Knight gets tier 2 tower. Wisp currently tied up with the Dragon Knight. Dreamcoil goes to the backlines. Excalibur pops the BKB and wants to engage into this fight. He doesn't have any lifesteal, and the Wisp isn't tethered up with him right now, so he doesn't have any other way to sustain. It's going to be a Lion down, relocates being channeled on the sidelines of the fight, but the Wisp doesn't tether with anything. Now tethering up with the Dragon Knight doesn't really accomplish much. As he's going now with the BKB is going to be working towards Wadafaka with the Avatos. It's going to be enough to get the kill onto the Jakiro. All of the Nagasiren illusions have been cleaned up, but now Bland is almost going to die. He is going to burn down to the Radiance Burn inside the well, as Nagasiren now gets a double kill. The only survivor right now is the Brewmaster, going to blink away from the net, as well as an auto attack from the puck, but they multicast onto Excalibur, caught out with no BKB. Another 3 times multicast. This guy is the luckiest little monkey in the world. Now Excalibur glimpse back is going to be dropped, and it's going to be almost a full team wipe. If you count the Aegis dying, it's a 5-for-1 trade.
Man, that fight for Swag was, again, just absolutely terrible. The Brewmaster jumped forward, looking for a split opportunity to start things off, and, I mean, that's what you gotta do. But then the Song of the Siren broke all of that up, and then by the time the Song of the Siren wore off, the Tiny was so far away from that fight that he actually couldn't jump in and do the damage that he really wanted to do. By the time he was close enough to do anything, the puck was right on top of him, controlled him with the Dream Coil, forced the BKB out, and then disengaged. So Tiny was left sitting there awkwardly in the BKB, trying to catch someone to hit, but he actually just didn't hit anyone in that fight just because the puck was doing such a great job at messing with him. And then at that point, Swag's BKBs are timing out, they don't have a split, they wasted all of their spells. That was just very poorly played by Swag once again, and very well played by xGame, especially that puck, keeping everyone out of that fight and disengaging, making sure that the Tiny wasn't able to actually connect with any skills, made that fight for xGame. And Swag, they have to do a lot better than that if they want to take these fights in the future, because Nagasiren, once again, is reaping the rewards.
Yeah, and now Mantis is towards that next item, whether it be a butterfly or whether he actually finishes up the Mantis style after going for the casual Yasha. I'm not sure it actually matters much for Nagasiren. It's just going to be Naga getting more and getting closer to that 6-slotted territory. Usually when you have an Aegis, the next fight's a lot better than how it just went for his Swag, and this Nagasiren is absolutely stacked. Despite Tiny being pretty close to the net worth of the Naga, he's just been controlled so well in the team fights. And now with an Aghanim Scepter on the Disruptor as well as a Scythe on the puck, I don't see that changing. BKB or not, if they get a Blink Scythe initiation with dropping a Static Storm on top of you, that's going to change. Relocate. They found Mantis. They're going to be able to toss onto him, and they're going to bring down the Naga. Before he can even react, there's no supports inbound, and they find a very important pickup. Glimpse back on the sidelines. It's going to pull back Solon. Solon's blown up by Stallcat. It's going to be one support going down. Excalibur thrown up the air. He's not really going to be able to do much on the sidelines here. Looking for any sort of control further than that, they're not going to find it. It's a 1-for-1 trade, but definitely a trade that Swag are going to be happy with. Losing a Lion for the enemy Nagasiren, take that trade 10 out of 10 times.
Oh, for sure. Nagasiren does have buyback, so the pushing from Swag can't really capitalize on anything further, but they really, honestly, Swag could have gotten a little bit more. Like, they caught the Ogre with the Cyclone, but they were fighting off to the right side near the Secret Shop at the exact same time, so once again, splitting their attention and unable to have the Tiny reliably right-click down and focus one target. That's where he's the strongest. If you could just stun someone for however long and then have him hit the target 3 or 4 times with the Daedalus crits, like, that hasn't been happening for Excalibur, and if that doesn't happen, then, well, it doesn't happen. They might be setting up for another relocate soon enough. It looks like they're going to go for it in 5 seconds. They have an Observer Ward spotting the movement of xGame. However, if they go in right now, it will be not to their numeric advantage. So, yeah, they're going to split up this pair, and for now, just keep on farming. It is going to look like it's going to get to the late game this game. So, Dragon Knight, this Hand of Midas, is now going to be a pretty clear item. I mean, he's going to be happy that he picked this one up.
Definitely, and right now he's going to be building into his next major item. I'm not sure what that's going to be for the Dragon Knight. Maybe he invests in a little bit of lifesteal, maybe he goes for a Daedalus of his own, but I think they're just getting kited a little bit too much. I'm not sure what Dragon Knight's going to be able to pick up to remedy that fact, however. Yeah. For now, it's going to be both teams kind of sitting back. I think we're pretty much accessing the late game now, even though it's only 36 minutes and usually that's closer towards the mid game. With these carries that farm so quickly, and the Tiny as well as the Nagasiren, both of these heroes are getting dangerously close to getting or hitting critical mass with their item choices. Tiny, working towards the Assault Cuirass, almost has that finish, and once he does, he has the drums to replace, and that's about it. His item after the drums, I'm not sure what that's going to be. Maybe a heart, potentially a butterfly form. Just something, anything to tank himself up. Lifesteal would be wonderful on this Tiny, and maybe the best item they can get for him isn't one on the Tiny himself, but a Vladimir's offering on one of these supports.
Having Bland with the Vlads is going to be huge. Actually, no, they already have Vlads. It's on the Brewmaster, so...
Oh, hey, there we go.
Lifesteal on the Tiny has been achieved. Lots of armor as well. It is going to be a push from xGame down the bottom lane. That's going to be uncontested by Swag, as they actually don't really get much of anything in return. Maybe they're going to get a tier 2 tower, but no, they're just going to all juggle around their TPs. Still, xGame are pushing down this bottom lane a little bit more, but every single tower that you are going to be losing is just more room for the Naga Siren. Wadafaka, playing this very dangerously, but he will be fine for now. Although eSkills and KitKat kind of do want in, they're not going to find anyone. So tower down for xGame, and that's going to mean Naga Siren has more room for split pushing. Once she gets her next couple of items, has a Manta Style in the pipeline, and then has Bottle and Ring of Aquila to replace. With 4,700 gold, she can very quickly replace those items.
Yeah, definitely. It's going to be an SNY for the Dragon Knight. I'm not a huge fan of this choice from eSkills. It feels like a middling item for him. It's not great, it's not bad. Honestly, I think a Heaven's Halberd would offer a little bit more utility than the extra movement speed from the Yasha, and potentially going for that would have been a little bit better, but he's not going to sell it. This is the item that he's committing to. It's not a bad item by any means. Like, if everybody could start with the Sanjin Yasha, sure, they'd take it, but it's not the greatest six-slotted item either.
If it's 40 minutes into the game and you're getting a Sanjin Yasha, either you're a support that found itself with a lot of money, or you are making a kind of less than ideal item pickup, as it's like he's so rich. Like, he will be getting so much gold. Why get this item that you could just as easily, or with a little bit more effort, get something like a Scotty that's going to be contributing that much more for you? It's a good item on DK if he gets it first, but after Mjolnir and a BKB with the Hand of Midas working, there's no point in going for a Scotty, honestly. So I don't like this pickup for eSkills. I would have liked to see pretty much anything else. Like a Basher would have been so much better for him, even though he would be sometimes ranged. Doesn't really matter there, but what's done is done, and we'll see if it actually provides any value. I guess the movement speed and Maim is sometimes nice, but again, when you have Dragon form up, you don't really have to worry about movement speed differential.
Yeah, I think that's fair, especially since Bland has kind of been bouncing between the Dragon Knight and the Tiny in the team fights. You also have that little bit of extra movement speed coming out from the Wisp on top of it. I think just the sticking power of the Basher is probably better, and the Scotty gives you similar stats to the SNY, better stats in fact, as well as more consistent sticking power. So I don't know, it's not a bad choice. I think we've kind of gone over it. eSkills, or rather, excuse me, Mantis does have 7,000 gold. I'm not sure what he's going to commit towards as his next item. I think he's just going to one-shot buy up a Butterfly.
Yeah, you don't really hold this much gold if you could get a Manta Style, because Manta Style is an item that helps you get more gold, so you might as well make that purchase as early as you possibly can. With 7,500 gold, it has to be something along those lines. As far as expensive items go, for Naga Siren, Butterfly is the only one that she has left to buy, unless she wants to get, like, another heart or something like that, but that doesn't seem too worth it right now. She could do that right now, and that will be a straight Butterfly purchase, and then she'll have another 2,000 gold to boot. Maybe an Ultimate Orb is going to be picked up as well, but this Naga Siren is going to need MKBs to deal with her now, and eSkills, after picking up the Sanjin Yasha, is going to be nowhere close to that. Tiny, they typically don't like to buy Sanjin Yashas, so that's not going to be ideal. KitKat's going to hit with multicast. They do set up for a potential Ice Path onto KitKat, and they're going to try to chain stun this Brewmaster before he gets split off, and it will be successful, although with the spike, it'll beat up enough for BKB to be popped, and now the split, they're going to get Avalanche tossed into Mantis, but he will slither away. No lockdown onto this Naga Siren, again from Excalibur. They're going to drop the Jakiro at the back end, and now they're going to look for the Ogre Magi, landing into Excalibur's toss. That's going to be 2 for 0, but all the BKBs and the split have been used for Swag. They did not kill off the Naga Siren. Can they go for more? They're going to go for more, actually, as Excalibur gets short relocated forward by Bland, going to kill off the Disruptor. Only Puck and Naga Siren to survive. This is Swag's time to make a push happen, but this is going to be very difficult. Buyback is up on the Jakiro, already used by the Ogre, and I don't think this push can really get much done.
Yeah, backdoor protection is still available. Tiny's able to eat through this, albeit slowly, and if he ever stops hitting the tower, it's just going to regen back to full, and they literally do 13 damage to it. Multicast galore from Reeves. This guy is ridiculously lucky. It seems that he's averaging a 3 times multicast.
Now they're going to blink forward, looking for this Tiny. Doesn't have a BKB. Will get hit with the Ice Path. Solon's going to try to slow down Reeves. In the meantime, Excalibur does turn around, does not have BKB. And, well, the coil's actually going to completely miss because of the Song of the Siren. Now is another time for Swag to reinitiate. Ice Path is going to connect again onto Excalibur. He's dropping very low. Again, doesn't have a BKB. Sitting in the Macro Pyre. Not where you want to be as any hero, and Tiny's going to go down because of it. Mantis going to charge forward for Stolen. Spike is going to slow down Wadafaka, but Cat in the meantime is going to get brought down by Stallcat. Swag are going to lose almost all of their heroes now as xGame. They are forced to buy back. However, they don't lose any structures, and they take 3 heroes down. Those buybacks actually only on Puck. That was very much so worth it, especially if they get Roshan after this, and they will.
Yeah, they buy back in the Ogre previously, but still, they kill off the Tiny, the Brewmaster, and then one of the supports. That's perfect for xGame, and yeah, it's going to be Roshan for them. That's going to be now an Aegis onto Mantis, presumably going to be the one to hold on to that, probably going to ship away that bottle. And with 2 lives on your Naga Siren, they can play a lot more aggressively. Despite eating the entirety of an Avalanche Toss combination, Mantis still survives for a surprisingly long amount of time, even with a couple of crits to follow it up, and they just don't seem to have the staying power to stick on this Naga Siren. When she's bloodlusted, constantly moving at 520 movement speed. Mantis also popped the Flutter during the last engagement. It didn't really do anything since she was bloodlusted, but still, this Naga Siren is incredibly fast. It's going to be a BKB for Io, so maybe he'll be able to survive longer in the fights, but I don't know. Bland's performance this game, it hasn't been terrible, but it hasn't been very impressive either. I'm not sure what this BKB is really going to change.
This is going to be just so hard. Even if you do get a BKB on Io, so what? Like, you're not going to die to all the skills, but if you are surviving through the Song of Siren, that just means Naga Siren has a very clear objective: kill whoever's BKB'd while I still can. So this actually might be hurting the Io more than it's going to be helping him. Of course, you'll be able to get skills off in the Static Storm. No, he actually won't because of an Aghanim Scepter. Never mind. I don't like this BKB pickup anymore. He'll protect him versus Puck and Sheep, but Puck wasn't going for the Io in the first place, so yeah, I don't really think this is the best way to spend your gold as an IO, but what's done is done. It's going to be a smoke up for xGame. They have Mantis, who's almost completely 6-slotted, just has a Mantis style to complete and a Diffusal to upgrade, and then the Naga Siren is completed with her item build. And it should be xGame looking to slowly start to choke Swag out of their resources, and it looks like they're going to try to start with the gank up towards top. They should not find anyone. However, Stallcat, if he gets a smoke blown right now, he will know exactly where the Swag heroes are, and he will get a read. Bland is going to be found out, and suddenly, Io's going to wish he had a BKB.
Well, he does, but he doesn't pop it. He's going to end up giving away his life without spending that 10-second charge. As long as they don't push into any towers, it's going to be okay for Swag, I suppose, but maybe just BKB TP would have been better there. There's... oh no, they had the Naga Siren there that had a net. Never mind. Yeah, as long as they have a way to cancel it, it's a wise choice by the Wisp not to spend that cooldown and lose a second on the Black King bar. But still, xGame, the rest of the lanes are pushing out on towards their side of the map, so they're not going to be able to capitalize off of this pickoff. It's still a nice bonus for them, but it's not going to transition to any map control. Tiny, now sitting on 5,000 gold, also going to be working towards his next item. I think a... excuse me, Butterfly of his own is presumably going to be his last slot. I'm not sure there's anything else that would really do it for the Tiny. It already has lifesteal coming out from the Vladimir's offering on the Brewmaster, and I'm not sure the extra tank from Heart would be worth it. I think the evasion, especially up against now Diffusal illusions coming up from the Naga Siren, would just be a lot more useful.
Maybe an MKB for Excalibur to deal with the evasion of Mantis, but I don't know. Tinies with cleaves generally don't need to go for that line, so any sort of damage that Tiny gets is going to be extremely useful. Right now, xGame, they're just trying to split push out, and it's kind of to be expected, but Naga Siren isn't really doing that just yet. It seems like they're not going to be willing to crack the base until they get a couple more pickoffs. Aegis is going to be reclaimed soon enough, but I don't really think that's going to be used anytime soon, as neither side is really looking to make a jump in, as xGame don't really have the creep waves in their favor. Naga Siren illusions are going to be pushing forward, granted, but I mean, that's going to be happening one way or another, so it's just a matter of, do they want to fight right now? I guess they should, since they have an Aegis, but it's going to be hard. Mantis is going to go straight for the front lines. The fact that the Naga doesn't have a Mantis style right now is really going to be hurting xGame, because they can't siege the tower.
Yeah, definitely not as easily, and Naga Siren will be able to purchase that up, but at the cost of her buyback, so Mantis is going to side against it. These illusions are just cleaned up so quickly by the Tiny. They're instead going to throw them down towards bottom and split the attention of Swag. I think this is a better approach. Just keeping pressure on all of the lanes. Even though xGame aren't going to be able to break the base immediately, or it'll take a long time if they're able to do so, Swag aren't getting anything out of this map and completely bottled up on their side, or inside their base rather, I should say.
It was a pretty standard Naga Siren game, I would say. He does buy up the Manta Style, actually. Had that on the Courier, so he still has money for buyback. Now Naga Siren's only item progression, aside from getting 7 slots, Refresher Orb, stuff like that, Necro Book, is going to be upgrading the Diffusal Blade, and that should be the next purchase for him. Now with the extra illusions, he's going to be able to, send even more in, and that's so important just to do a little bit more damage to the towers, but also just because Lion is on the other end, who can instantly kill off 2 of the illusions with Hex and Mana Drain. You want to be able to split his attention so that he can't kill all of your pushing power. Mantis is going to stay the course, and it's just going to be one of those games where we just sit back and wait for someone to jump in.
Yeah, it might take quite a while before we're able to see anybody jumping in, but the multicast galore into E-skills, they're going to try to open up onto this Dragon Knight, but he's pretty darn tanky. Selling the Siren does come out from Mantis as they try to isolate anything, but the BKB's already worn off. Stagstorm onto both, but they don't lock them down. Now Excalibur is able to get some uptime in the auto attacks, chunking down poor Equal. He's going to be the first one to be brought down, now pursuing Mantis out with the Flutter activated, moving at max movement speed. They can't latch onto him with any of their lockdown inside the base. Stallcat's able to clean up the line. Will be able to make a clean retreat? I don't think so. Avalanche misses, however, as he stays on the other end, gets Dragon-tailed up by E-Skill, now just going to be brought down almost solo by the Dragon Knight. On the sidelines of the fight, Reeves is going to pop the cheese after getting a multicast and trying to focus down Bland. Bland is going to fall. Mantis, this is the real Mantis, doesn't have Aegis anymore, is going to multicast, and again onto the Tiny. My goodness, Reeves is so lucky. That was like a double and a triple, and now another multicast onto Dragon Knight. These fire blasts are brutal.
Reeves has been practicing his Ogre, man. He has the skill, and it's clearly showing. That's going to be a huge 4-for-1 trade in favor of xGame. Mantis still alive. Another 2x multicast on E-skills. Finally gets a 1-cast, but Kit-Kat jumps right into an Ice Path, and now the Naga Siren is going to wail into him. Excalibur comes in from behind, will kill off the Ogre, but can it be enough to actually swing this? He was forced to buy back. Now he's trying to chase forward, but again, we see the problem that Tiny has been having. He can't stick onto his targets. If he had an Eye of Scotty or a Basher or something in order to lock someone down, then this Tiny would be contributing so much more, but instead, he is forced to buy back. He does make the defense, but still, xGame get more and more ahead in this game. Now finally taking a decisive lead as the gold and experience starts spiking heavily towards xGame.
Yeah, definitely. Right now, Naga Siren's completely capped out, or will be once upgrading the Diffusal. With the new changes to Diffuse the Blade and the way that it scales, upgrading it is more attractive, at least for the agility, and less attractive for the mana burn. I think this game, the extra agility will be nicer than the charges that would be replenished if you waited to pick up that item. So Mantis might consider just snagging it up now, or maybe he just outright replaces the Diffusal Blade with something else.
Yeah, Diffusal Blade is one of the more cost-effective ways of increasing your illusion's damage. The charges at this point aren't really relevant. They only are used if you get Diffusal as your first item. So getting the upgrade is worth it, especially since, I mean, this guy is filthy rich. If he really wants to, he could sell his level 2 Diffusal Blade and buy another level 2 Diffusal Blade just for more charges. Like, that could be done from Mantis, so you might as well upgrade it. Otherwise, you have 7,000 gold to the bank that's doing pretty much nothing for you.
I'd love to see Mantis get something other than the Diffusal, maybe get a Scotty if he wants to tank up more, or potentially even an Abyssal or Monkey King bars so he can man fight more effectively up against Tiny. Speaking of Monkey King bars, it is going to be the last item for Tiny, so he's not going to have to worry about evasion, and also one in the Dragon Knight has been completely picked up. Mantis is going to be sitting on a filthy amount of gold for the rest of this game. None of the other heroes really push out creep waves that effectively, and it's just so easy for the Naga Siren to continuously do so. Eventually, we might see some refresher shenanigans, but for all intents and purposes, this Naga Siren's completely capped out. But then again, so is the Tiny.
Right, and in a man fight, Tiny should be able to win that. However, Tiny has not been able to get into those man fights. Jump in from Cat, gonna catch Mantis instantly though. They pop the Song of the Siren. This is going to catch E-skills. The Coil has been used on only the Dragon Knight as well, but BKBs do come up from him and Excalibur. Now going to go straight for Reeves. The damage is going to be high enough to obliterate the Ogre Magi. No multicast in this fight. Now they're chasing forward for more. They throw the Jakiro up into the air. He's going to blink straight out of that, however. Wadafaka going to get hexed up, though. I think he should be fine. They're instead going to be just delayed by illusion after illusion. Wadafaka still on the low ground, is being sieged by all ends. Now he's going to try to TP out. Is he really going to make it out of here? He will. And now Stallcat's going to jump forward, try to go for Stolen. The Dragon Blast is not going to kill him off. The Orb isn't going to do it either. That's only a 1 for 0 so far. Bland gets tossed forward. Solon wants in for another Hex, smashing that button, I'm sure, and it's not going to be in time. The blink out from Stallcat off to the south, and he's home free. xGame, they lose only one hero in exchange in that entirety of that fight. And now Swag, they want to go in, but they don't have a split. I don't know if they could actually push right now.
It's going to be risky if they do. Naga Siren, although she's currently pushing top, does have Boots of Travel to get back in this engagement. They're going to start chipping away at the tier 3 tower and do a lot of damage. Tiny's chunking it down. The Glyph's going to be forced out after 2 auto attacks of the Tiny and a handful from Dragon Knight. Glimpse back onto E-skills. There's no follow-up for that after it, and they'll just slow down his attack speed. Jump in from the Brewmaster. He gets a clap off, but without the ultimate, he's not able to do enough damage. There's going to be a Finger of Death, however, which will be able to do the deeps. Puck is going to fall, and now inside their base, Excalibur is being zoned out now that the buyback comes out from the Puck. They're going to try to get out of here alive, but with the Song of the Siren, it's going to be hard. Macropyre down on the ground. Ice Path to follow it up. No, Ice Path just a look at fire. They're looking for the Dream Coil. Can't find the Dream Coil. He's stunned by the Craggy, but Excalibur is going to die nonetheless. A couple of Fire Blasts and the auto attacks from Mantis are going to secure that deal. Buybacks were forced out coming out from xGame, but it's still going to be a 1-5 for them since they kill off the Tiny, and that's Tiny dead for 108 seconds with no ability to get back in this game as he previously spent it. So dieback from the Tiny is going to probably cost them at least 1, if not 2 lanes of barracks.
Yeah, this is going to be Swag's base opened up so wide, and xGame loses the Disruptor, so they don't have the Static Storm for this one, but that's not really going to be their concern. Mantis is going to go to town on these racks. At the same time, Puck is up towards top, going to get a kill with the Ogre Magi. Another multicast, going to casually kill off the Lion, who's going to be forced to buy back. Fortification is there, but mid lane is going to go down for sure, and it looks like they want to go for top lane next. They're going to still mess with E-skills. He does get hexed up. Cat going to jump forward for a split, but is that even relevant right now? Mantis can tear through these if he wants to, and he will. Nice Impale from Solan's going to land onto Reeves and Mantis both, and it will be enough to kill off the Ogre Magi, but now Mantis is going to try to manfight versus E-skills. He's going to lose that manfight. In fact, Solan Siren can't get it out. Naga Siren down. He's going to instantly buy back and look to finish off this game. Now the Puck up into the air is going to get into the phase shift, blink out from under Cat, and he will be just fine, but this is still 45 seconds with no Tiny. DK Brewmaster making a valiant defense. They just need to hold out for just a little while longer, and then they could even crack back for lethal. But right now, xGame, they're still just strangling Swag in their lanes. They can't get anything done as top lane and bottom lane are both pushing. Wadafaka with the dual breath and a giant creep wave is pushing that at the same time. Stallcat and Mantis, they're going to take bottom lane. Range Rax is down. Melee Rax is down as well. That's 2 sets of Raxes. E-skills going to get frozen by the Ice Path, and the Jakiro still split pushing to his heart's content. xGame have now all heroes available, and Mantis is going to start heading towards the 3rd and final set of Raxes. Swag, they have 7 seconds until the Tiny's back up. They need to take a great team fight. They're going to find Reeves, and then instantly the Song Siren is there. Cat does the BKB, however. He's going to do a lot of damage, but it's going to be E-skills to get focused down with the Veil. He's going to drop solo, but he will survive. Bailed out by the IO. No, he's actually going to die in the end, as he does relocate into creeps, actually. Excalibur is now back into this fight, but it's just him. He has the IO to potentially give him overcharge, but that's about it. That's not going to be enough. He gets hexed out after the BKB runs out, and Bland, he's going to give him a little bit more survivability with more attack speed, but Max Fire on the floor. Excalibur going to try to creep down everyone, is going to get 1 kill on the Puck, almost going to kill into Wadafaka. He will get the kill in the end, but he does not get the kill onto Mantis, and now he's going to get multicasted down. Here comes Solan once again. Finger of Death onto Equal will kill off the Disruptor, but again, that's not really relevant. Where's Mantis going to make more illusions? Going to send them to the Raxes, as Solan's now going to hit with the Purge Starge. He's going to try to mana drain Mantis. That's going to do nothing. All of Swag are dead. They have no more buybacks. That's GG.
Yeah, xGame were able to play the game that they wanted to, and Swag, although it looked really good for them in the early portions of the game, they kind of let that go, especially in the last couple of team fights. It just all slipped out of control, and crucially, Tiny gets cut out without buyback, and when most of your net worth is off the map for that long of time, it's so hard to come back from it. That last fight was effectively and was the last stand coming out from xGame and or from Swag, and they just weren't able to pull through. xGame, Mantis is probably the MVP, but other than that, Reeves and his multicast, man. Whenever xGame weren't focused down, or their Ogre wasn't focused down in the team fights, the multicast flew, and he was able to continuously spam with those Fire Blasts, which were crucial and focused down a lot of key heroes, especially the likes of the IO and Lion, who almost got 100 to 0'd.
Alright guys, so that's going to be it for this best of 1. Naga Siren games, of course, going to take 50 plus minutes. It looks like there are more games in about 30 minutes. Don't really know what we're going to be doing. Probably going to try to head towards Denial versus When in Mood, although we're going to be playing it by ear. Thanks for watching, guys. Hope you stick around for more games. I'm Mike Loris. I've been joined by Grandis, and we should be back soon enough with more games.